And then when I had my first son, Sutton, I was severely depressed, severely anxious, postpartum depression.
Yeah.
And I started at that time, this was 10 years ago, it wasn't as readily available, the information. And so I just started writing and I wrote a story, a blog post that ended up being picked up by magazines everywhere. And it was just essentially me saying, I don't feel human. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm afraid of putting my child in a car seat. I think I'm going to break his bones and I'm impossible to be around. I don't know who I am, but here's who God is and here's what my village has done. And like, here's what I encourage. And I think that was the first time, Dina, like we're talking about, where that openness and vulnerability, it was like it had to come out of me or it was going to explode. And I started seeing that and then started talking more about, my promiscuous past and then choosing to be pure with
Yeah.
Jesse as we were getting married. And the response from people really, really was focused around relationship. And so I felt the Lord just kind of continuing to lead me in that direction. And wrote a blog for 10 years, podcasted, and then wrote my book. So here we are.
That's amazing. And, you're so transparent in everything that you're talking about, from the postpartum depression to things in your past. And I feel like sometimes when we pick up a book written by an expert, there is some sort of underlying feeling of, as you're reading, like, oh, well, they couldn't possibly understand the situation I'm in. And you're reading the words and you're like, yeah, but what about this and that? But you use your own personal experiences to encourage from, and your openness and your vulnerability God is using in a big way. I mean, there was a time that you considered things starting to become beyond repair in your own marriage. Could you speak a little bit more about your own experience and how that played into the book?
Yes. Yeah. So I feel I'm a firm believer that it's really important to have walked through something before you begin coaching, and not only walked through it but found tools and resources. And that's why I wrote Don't Burn Your Own House Down, because we were at such a horrible place, honestly, in our relationship at one point, that all of the things I had learned at the time they were great up until that point. But when you're in the fire and you need to learn tools to get out of the fire. And so that is the purpose of this for us. A lot of it was parenting. Even to this day, if I'm honest with you, when Jesse and I are alone, we are just the best versions of ourselves. When the kids are around, we are more tense, we're more stressed, we're more irritable, and we have two very rowdy, very sweet, amazing, but man, they have the more energy than anybody I've ever met. And so we have to constantly kind of either keep up with that or structure it or do these things, and it takes a lot out of us. And
Hmm.
then by the end of the day, we're giving our leftovers to one another. And I think that that's what had started happening is we were becoming so depleted and we were not being intentional, because you can be depleted, but you can still choose one another. And it's the reality of your life that there are going to be seasons that you're going to be disconnected, you're going to be depleted, but you can't stay there. And we were just staying there. We would doom scroll on our phones at night. I have a chapter called More Scrolling, More Problems, where it talks really about technoference and how phones are completely, essentially eradicating our connection with our partner. So we were doing that. And then we weren't having sex. We weren't being intimate because we were tired. I was like hiding my body because I felt like a different person
Hear
after
that.
having kids.
I think having kids is one of those life situations that, everybody says prepares you for certain things, like, oh, you're not going to have a lot of sleep. Oh, you're doing this and that. For some of us, because I had the same thing, I had postpartum depression
Yeah,
and I
so
walked
sorry.
through that similarly. When you have one side going through depression, the other side wondering, like, what happened? We're just going through two completely different experiences side by side. And just like you mentioned in your book, that disconnection doesn't just torch marriage overnight. It's like a slow, steady thing that just builds. And as you're saying, you get into these bad habits. And it's just almost like when you have those changes of season and one partner's going through depression, the other partner's just like, what is going on? It's like, how do you support each other? Like, who notices first?